this last video for polynomial long division is covering these last two problems. So determine if the function d of x is a factor of the function f of x. So it's asking, is x plus 1 a factor of this expression here? When we think about factors and long division, if I were to divide 3 into, let's say, 61. So 3 goes into 6 2 times. 3 times 2 is 6. We subtract, bring down the 1. 3 doesn't go into 1, so we would have 0 and bring down a 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. So notice how we end up with the decimal. So that means 3 is not going to be a factor of 61. For something to be a factor, it wouldn't have a decimal. So 3 can go into something like 36, right? 3 goes into 3 once. You subtract, bring down the 6. 3 goes into 6 twice. So we subtract, and we have a remainder of 0. So that's what it means to be a factor, is if when we divide, our remainder is 0. Because this can keep going. 3 goes times 3. Like, we still have a remainder when we divide here. So to be a factor, it means our remainder is 0. And that's the same with polynomials. So this first one asks, is x plus 1 a factor of this? So we're going to have to divide, do our long division to see, is it a factor? So making sure we have all of our terms, 3, 2, 1, constant, so we do. Okay, so we look at the first numbers, and off to the side we divide. So 3x to the third divided by x will leave us with 3x squared. So that's my first term here. I'm going to multiply this by x plus 1 to get 3x to the third plus 3x squared. When I subtract, the first term should always cancel. 7 minus 3 is 4. And we bring down our next term. So now 4x squared divided by x would be 4x. So that's my next number here. And then that's what I'll multiply here. So 4x times x plus 1 would give us 4x squared plus 4x. And we subtract. Those will cancel. 3 minus 4 is negative 1x. Bring down the next one. Okay, so negative x, that's what I have here. I'm dividing it by the x up here, is negative 1. So that's my next term. So I have negative 1 times x plus 1 will be negative x minus 1. And when we subtract here, negative 1 minus negative x, that cancels. Negative 1 minus negative 1, we have a remainder of 0. So for number 5, if we have a remainder of 0, that means it's a factor. So yes, that is a factor. So number 5, your answer should be yes. Number 6, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to see, do we have a remainder when we divide? So this is 3x to the fourth minus 3x to the third. We have all of our terms, so I don't need any placeholders. I have x minus 2. Off to the side, I do the 3x to the fourth divided by my first term here, x, to get 3x to the third, and that will go right here. And then I multiply. So 3x to the third times x minus 2 gives me 3x to the fourth minus 6x to the third, and then subtract. So this cancels. Negative 3 minus negative 6 would be like negative 3 plus 6. That will give me, 3x to the third. Bring down the next one. So my first term is 3x to the third. And I look at the first term here, it's just x. When I divide, I get 3x squared. So that's my next term up top, plus 3x squared. And then I'm going to multiply 3x squared times x minus 2. That will give me 3x to the third minus 6x squared. So instead of doing subtraction, so like if you don't have different colored pencils, it's kind of easier to see that it's subtraction. You could just flip your signs here. There's another way you could do it. So I can make this -3 plus 6 and then add the terms. So this is just another way you could do it. It's just flip the signs and add. So 3 minus 3, that cancels. -9 plus 6 is -3. Bring down the next term. So I kind of prefer flipping the signs when I'm writing in all pencil because it's easier to see if I'm adding or subtracting. So instead of minus and negative, it can look confusing. That's up to you. So I have -3x squared, and my first term, I'm left with -3x. Sorry, -3x squared divided by my first term here. I get -3x, so that's my next number up top, minus 3x. So 3x minus -3x times x minus 2 will give me -3x squared plus 6x. Okay, so I'm going to do that trick again. So flipping the signs and then adding. So -3 and 3 cancels. 5 minus 6 is -1x. Bring down the 2, -2. Okay, looking at my first term, I have -x over x, which is -1. -x over x is -1. That goes right here and multiply. This will be -x plus 2. Flipping the signs, so x's will cancel. -2 minus 2, that's a -4. So here we have a remainder, so no, it is not a factor for number 6.